People often ask me, Eric, what's your favorite track on the NASCAR schedule? What track consistently produces the best racing? And the easy answer I give every single time is Bristol Motor Speedway. It's called the last great Coliseum for a reason, and we saw a crazy battle at the finish of this race tonight. We have a lot to react to, a lot of shocking developments from today's race at Bristol that, goodness, gonna give us a lot to talk about. How's it going, you guys? My name is Eric and welcome to Out of the Groove. The first official short track race of the NASCAR Cup Series season, and it did not disappoint. Remember, this year, NASCAR is running a slightly different rules package at the short tracks than they did last year. Last year, they still had the big rear spoilers. This year, still 750 horsepower, but the small spoiler is back. So dirty air was never, I don't think the word dirty air was mentioned once during today's FS1 NASCAR broadcast, which is always a welcome thing to hear. Bristol Motor Speedway put on another great show today for the Food City Heroes 500. I'm going to talk about the top finishers from today's race. I'm going to put this race on the Groovy Gauge. We're going to talk about the action we saw today. But before I get to all that in this video, let's start with the finish, the thing that had everyone talking after the checkered flag. The ending of this race was crazy. It looked like Denny Hamlin was going to run away with the victory until, inexplicably, with like less than 20 laps to go, he just got loose, got into the wall, stacked the field up. Logano got into him. The both of them got into the wall. Chase Elliott scooted on by as the caution flag flew. A lot of damage on Denny Hamlin's car. He had one of the, maybe the best car all day long, and especially on the longer runs, he seemed to often find the front of the field, but a bunch of damage put him outside the top 15 by the end of this thing, and that set up a final restart where Joey Logano and Chase Elliott we're going to go battle bumper to bumper for the end of this thing. Chase Elliott, of course, got his first win of the year just a few days ago at Charlotte. Joey Logano has 2 wins this year. 2 of the younger superstars of the sport, 2 of the most talented drivers in the garage area, without a doubt. They put on just an epic display of how not to drive a race car in the final 20 or so laps of this thing. It started when Logano kind of overdrove the corner, and that's sort of what caused Hamlin to fully get up into the wall and kind of brought out the caution. So a little bit of a misjudgment from Logano's part there, but the worst part came on the final restart when Chase Elliott just pulled perhaps the least Chase Elliott-like move I've ever seen. Look, I'm used to seeing Denny Hamlin occasionally just make mistakes. He's really talented, easily one of the most talented drivers in NASCAR, but he makes mistakes sometimes. He's known for just overdriving the corner sometimes and messing up. It's something Denny Hamlin's known to do from time to time. So when he slipped up into the wall, I was shocked, but I had to remember for a second it was Denny Hamlin. Joey Logano, another guy, very, very aggressive, and often that aggressiveness leads to wins, leads to great moves, leads to passes. Other times, though, that aggressiveness has gotten him into a little bit of trouble. So with Hamlin making a mistake, Logano kind of messing up that one point getting into Hamlin, not super shocking. What I was not prepared for was Chase Elliott going full send with 2 laps to go, not even trying to make the corner, and taking both him and Logano out on the final restart. Look, I can't believe what I saw when this happened. Rewinded a lap, Logano was going for the pass on Chase Elliott, might have moved up in front of him and kind of cut him off a little bit, probably frustrated Chase Elliott, so Chase Elliott put the bump and run on him into the corner. Very clean, very smooth bump and run to draw up side by side going into that turn. But once they got to that turn, once again, coming to 2 laps to go, Chase Elliott just 4-wheel slid it all the way up into the wall, pancaked the wall alongside the 22. Both of them suffered bad finishes as a result. That handed the victory to Brad Keselowski, ironically Joey's teammate. Second race this week where a Chase Elliott move has basically gift-wrapped Keselowski a victory. It's happened in the Coke 600, of course. My jaw just hit the floor. Chase Elliott can be aggressive at times, but we don't see him make that kind of an aggressive mistake. I've kicked people out of my NASCAR Heat 4 lobbies for doing less than what Chase Elliott did to Logano there. Both drivers spoke their piece on pit road. Both drivers spoke to each other as well, face masks and all, and clearly disagreed by how it happened. But Logano afterwards said, among other things, "I understand hard racing. A simple apology is all you can ask for. Just be a man and take it." He said during his TV interview that he kind of had to force Chase Elliott to apologize for the incident, which interesting, of course. Joey Logano's had plenty of run-ins with other drivers who have, accused him of being overly aggressive at times, so it's kind of hard for me to judge. I mean, I feel for Logano in this instance. I don't think he really did anything wrong. Like I said, he kind of cut Chase Elliott off, but with 3 laps to go at a short track, I don't think that's a major offense. Chase Elliott, bump and run, okay, fair game. But then Chase Elliott just sending it and just missing the corner and wrecking the both, definitely a reason for Joey Logano to be mad. I'm not one of those guys who says, oh, Logano, you don't have any room to talk because remember Las Vegas in 2017, I think it was. You wrecked Kyle Busch at the end. Like, you have no room to talk. I refuse to think that way. Logano was clearly wronged in this moment by Chase Elliott, so I don't blame him for being upset by it and being a little miffed that Chase Elliott didn't kind of beat around the bush and didn't, own up to it at first. So, again, I kind of have No issues with Joey Logano's reaction to this whatsoever. Chase Elliott gave his reaction as well. Chase Elliott did take the blame for it in his post-race interview. He claimed he just got looser than he expected. At first, he thought maybe he had a tire going down, but he pretty quickly kind of admitted that no, he just got loose, overdrove the corner a little bit. He ended up by saying, "I hate that we both got wrecked, but you can't go back in time now." So there you have it. Both drivers, of course, exchanged words on pit road. No physical altercation. I'm sure NASCAR was probably not wanting them to do too much of that with, you know, social distancing and everything. They don't want that to be broadcast on major television. You know, they're two of their most popular drivers going at it. But clearly neither driver sees eye to eye on this one. I think Joey Logano is definitely going to think about this incident for quite a while. Martinsville coming up, other short tracks coming up. I mean, Joey Logano is going to remember this. And believe me, the 22 and the 9 car will find themselves racing near each other at the front of the field late in one of these races. So just take that for what it's worth. I think Logano's going to remember this incident because, like I said, I like Chase Elliott a lot. I think he's a super talented driver, but he lost his head in this moment. I don't know what he thought he was going to accomplish by sending it into that turn the way he did with the position he had on Logano. I don't know what he expected, but really the only option there was going into the wall. That was the only thing that was going to happen. And like I said, I expect Logano to occasionally make an over-aggressive mistake. I expect Denny Hamlin to make an over-aggressive mistake from time to time. Both of those things happened tonight. I did not expect Chase Elliott to make an over-aggressive mistake like that in that way. But it was entertaining to watch. I applaud them for putting on a show. There was a few moments in this race where I think if fans had been in the stands, it would have been one of those, you know, you can feel the stadium rumbling kind of moments. There was a few moments in this race where I assure you the crowd would have gone berserk. And of course, including the finale of this thing, that would have been an all-time moment if you'd had the fan reaction in real time. Definitely an uncharacteristic mistake from Chase Elliott, but it handed the win to Brad Keselowski. Let's talk about the top finishers from tonight's race. Brad Keselowski gets the win. Clint Bowyer, who lurked in and around the top 10 for most of the second half of this race, ends up with his season best second place finish, a much needed finish for the 14 driver. Jimmy Johnson, a solid top 5. He ran up in the top 5 pretty much the entire second half of this race. It looked like on the long run, he might have something for the leaders, but unfortunately this race came down to short runs and he kept kind of getting trapped on the inside lane, lost some track position. The inside was pretty equal to the outside once the run kind of got a few laps under its belt, but on the restarts, especially the first couple laps, often the inside lane was at a slight disadvantage. Kyle Busch, the modern day king of Bristol, finishes a solid 4th. Eric Jones, his teammate, finishes 5th. A few other notables. Austin Dillon finishing 6th. I think this is his 3rd straight top 10. So Austin Dillon has been on a solid little roll. People need to take note of that. Kurt Busch was a lap down at one point with damage from a wreck that was not his fault earlier in the race. The fact that he came back to finish 7th, very impressive. Christopher Bell gets his 2nd top 10 of his rookie campaign, ran up in the top 10, especially late in this race pretty consistently, and managed to rebound from a late race penalty to get a solid finish. Bubba Wallace, he's had some standout moments at Bristol in the past. Was it 2018? He actually drove up and led some laps at Bristol in the spring race that year. He gets a solid top 10 finish, a very solid top 10 finish for Richard Petty Motorsports. So shout out to Bubba Wallace. Another decent day for John Hunter Nemechek. Look a little further down. Timmy Hill, Daniel Suarez getting top 20 finishes for those race teams. Very impressive for those two Toyotas. You see Denny Hamlin getting a pretty rough finish there after that late race mistake. Not pictured, but Logano finished 21st and Chase ended up 22nd. So yeah, rough finish to what was otherwise going to be a great day for those race teams. It was a shame to see Matt DiBenedetto DNF in this race after almost winning the Bristol night race last August, driving for Levine Family Racing. This year with the Wood brothers, with Penske power underneath him, a lot of people were hoping this was maybe going to be the type of track, this was going to be a race that he could contend for his first career win. He ran up near the front at times, but he was involved in a big wreck early on in this race, and I believe it was mechanical issues that put him out of the race ultimately. So tough break for Matt DiBenedetto, but we do have Bristol later on in the summer, hopefully. Another notable is Ryan Blaney, who actually finished 40th, finished dead last. He was running 2nd early on in this race when he got loose, slid coming off of, I think it was turn 2 or turn 4. You know, they kind of looked the same at Bristol. I can't remember. Kept the car mostly off the wall, kept the car clean, but then Ty Dillon was not able to avoid him and basically took out the whole front end of that thing. So Blaney with a tough DNF and a last place finish. Guy has not had good luck at Bristol in his young career. Was it 2018? They showed the replay during the broadcast. Car blew a tire like right up into him. He was wrecked. So he's had some bad luck while running up front at Bristol. Blaney overall has had some bad luck already this year. Hopefully he can overcome it because his two teammates now have 2 wins apiece. Blaney is lagging behind. And before we move on, let's talk more about Brad Keselowski getting his 2nd win. I don't mean to move on from Keselowski too quick. He didn't have the best car today. He was consistently, I don't know, maybe a top 5 car, maybe a top 10 car. I don't know. He was never really a dominant car in this race, but he was there, right place, right time. Took fresh tires late in this thing, allowed him to kind of march through the field on a couple of those late race restarts to get in position to snag the victory away. This is his 2nd win of the year, matching him with Joey Logano, his teammate. They both now lead the Cup Series along with Denny Hamlin for most wins right now. Remember, each win is 5 playoff points that carry through each round round of the playoffs, minus the championship, of course. So every win from here on out for guys like Logano, Keselowski, Hamlin is huge regarding their playoff contention. For those guys, it's really all about wins. Like that third place finish that looked like Keselowski was going to get really doesn't mean anything in the grand scheme of things. It's all about getting wins for those guys. So coming home with the trophy here at Bristol is a big deal for Brad Keselowski, who once again, I'll remind everyone, is in a contract year. He has not signed a new contract with Team Penske yet, and it's rumored that he could go elsewhere this offseason. So continuing to win races, continuing to add value and remind people that he is a former champion. He is a perennial contender. Always good news. Always helps his new contract. Maybe helps that contract bulk up a little bit more with each of these wins he cashes in. Anyway, those are your top 20 finishers. A chaotic, a topsy-turvy day at Bristol Motor Speedway. But it was a fun one. Let's talk about the race as a whole, and in a few moments we'll put this thing on the groovy gauge. I love Bristol. Doesn't matter if it's old Bristol, where everyone was right around the bottom, and you got, Dale Earnhardt rattling his cage and bumping runs left and right. Doesn't matter if it was, Bristol from a few years ago when they had progressive banking added in. It was right around the top. It was still super fun to watch. Current Bristol, with the PJ1 on the bottom lane, is a true 2, almost 3-lane short track. Restarts were frustrating at times because, especially early in this race, the bottom lane really was at a disadvantage the first couple laps after restart. Then it came in, and then it started to make up some time, but the first couple laps, tough if you're restarting on the bottom. But this race almost felt like a dirt track. Every lap, it felt like the track was changing conditions. Every turn, every time a driver sent it into turn 1, they didn't know if the grip was better on the bottom, or the top, or the middle. The track felt like it was changing every single lap, which made things super unpredictable. I mean, that's part of why the leader of the race, Denny Hamlin, got loose out of nowhere. He'd been chugging along, probably thought he had that lane perfectly picked out, missed it slightly. Maybe he just underestimated what kind of grip it would have that lap, and he made a mistake, and it cost him the win. It felt like a dirt race, where in dirt races, obviously the track is changing every lap because cars are tearing through the dirt and changing the lanes and adding to the cushion and stuff like that, and people jump in the cushion. Like, in a lot of ways, Bristol today acted like a dirt track. And obviously Bristol's always kind of done this, but today more so than usual, it felt like. Probably because of the addition of the PJ1 on the bottom lane. It really just, you never knew what lane was really the fastest. I thought that was really interesting. And listening to some of the different drivers' radios, they would talk to each other about what drivers were jumping into the outside lane or when the bottom lane was coming in. It was almost like a super speedway where the leaders will talk about, hey, the outside lane's got a lot of cars up there. It's got momentum. It was almost the same thing. They radio and like, hey, everyone's around the top right now. Looks like a lot of grip up there. They'd move up top. Like, really interesting to see how the track would change almost lap by lap. You just don't see that very often, in a NASCAR racetrack like this. Bristol's always unpredictable, and today it felt like it was more unpredictable than usual. As far as the race itself, even the long green flag runs were still interesting and entertaining to watch because everyone's so bunched together in tight quarters, and there's always lap traffic mixing things up. Bristol Motor Speedway always puts on a fantastic show. I thought this race today didn't look much different than any of the races there last year where they had the big spoiler. I thought last year's Bristol races really weren't affected negatively by the rules package, but this year seeing kind of it was similar to the 2018 or 2017 rules package. Not quite the same, but really similar. I thought, again, put on a great show, but it wasn't really about the rules package today. I think that's what makes it fun. Whenever we don't have to talk about the rules package, I think that's a good thing. But putting this race on the groovy gauge, I'm going to give it a very solid 95%. The only reason I'm not going to make it 100 or a little closer to 100 is because the final couple restarts and wrecks and chaos, while it was wildly entertaining, it was just a little much. The fact that, arguably the 3 fastest cars all day, Chase Elliott, Joey Logano, and Denny Hamlin, all finished outside the top 15, I left a little bit of a sour taste in my mouth. Plus, there was a couple points in the middle of this race where it got a little dry, drier than perhaps it could be. It was a long one. It was a slugfest, a lot of cautions. We got close to setting the record for cautions at a Bristol Motor Speedway race, but there's a big wreck early on, a big vicious hit when Stenhouse got jammed up behind Matt Kenseth. Jimmy Johnson misjudged it, got into Stenhouse. That set off a huge wreck, took out Alex Bowman and a few other cars. As much as you hate tearing up race cars, one of the selling features of Bristol Motor Speedway is that it tears up sheet metal, chain reaction type of stuff. High speeds in very close confined quarters leads to some wild wrecks like we saw a couple times in this race tonight, which, when you go to Bristol, you expect at least 1 or 2 of those, so it didn't bother me too much at all. I just thought the end of this race, the fact that just Chase Elliott made that mistake and Hamlin made that mistake, it just felt a little sloppy at the end of this thing, but definitely did a lot for the drama in this race, but nearly a perfect score. I'm gonna give it a 95% on the groovy gauge. Let me know what you guys thought down below. Bristol Motor Speedway never, and I mean never, disappoints. I know there's obviously a lot of important stuff going on in the world right now, and a lot of people's attention is focused elsewhere, but I do hope that today's race at Bristol was able to be, a welcome distraction to those who were seeking it. And I'm glad that they put on a great show Sunday afternoon when everyone knows to tune in. I hope people enjoyed that race because I certainly did. Definitely adds to the more short tracks crowd. I'd love to see a Bristol Motor Speedway on every coast if I could make it possible. I'd build Bristols in every country if I could, because I think it produces the best stock car racing this planet has to offer. So today's show was great. Hope you guys enjoyed it, because I certainly did. That's all I've got for this episode. Thank you all for watching. Subscribe if you are new. Follow me on Twitter. Follow me on Instagram. We have new t-shirts like the one I'm wearing right here available down by the comment section below. So I appreciate you guys checking that out. Of course, a big thank you to my Patreon supporters. We continue to add new names on here almost every week, which is absolutely fantastic. Thank you all a ton for the support. It really is a blast to get to do these types of videos almost daily at this point for you guys, and that would not be possible without the support I get from you all on Patreon. So thank you all a ton for helping fund the channel. It really means a lot to me. Now don't worry folks, the action from Bristol is not done quite yet. Tomorrow is the Xfinity race from Bristol. And then I gotta check the schedule again. I don't remember when the next race is. I don't think there's another Cup race until this weekend. I should probably check that. Yeah, next Cup race is this coming Sunday at Atlanta. So we got a week off for the Cup Series, but there's still gonna be plenty of Xfinity Series action, plenty of other racing action going on to enjoy in the meantime. So I appreciate you all watching this video. I hope you enjoyed the race day. Hope you enjoyed my reaction to it. And I'll be back later this week with a bunch of other videos, y'all. I'm sure we'll have more to talk about after all the action we saw here tonight. Thanks for watching, everyone.